So right now I am planting something that I have actually never eaten before. And like 99% of the time I would recommend that you not do this. But I do have a good reason, I promise. This is a rhubarb seedling. It's actually two rhubarb seedlings that I started because my dad let me know that rhubarb is something that he really likes to eat. And so I decided to kind of just go all in and grow a little bit of rhubarb for him, because part of what I really like about gardening is that it gives me an opportunity to do things for people that they wouldn't get to do for themselves. And I find that to be really fulfilling. So, like, even if it ends up that I don't like rhubarb, I think I will still be really happy that I planted this because my dad really likes rhubarb and it's not gonna go to waste. So, you might notice that we are actually in the berry patch, and if you pay super close attention, something I wouldn't expect most of you to notice, but I am actually planting these on the shady side of the berry patch. So the sun is behind me right now, and when these plants fill out with all of their leaves, this side that the rhubarb is on is going to be shaded, and that is what I want. I want them to get this sun in the winter when all these leaves are gone, and then when it gets hot in the summer, I want them to be pretty shaded, especially from the afternoon sun. They're gonna get maybe like a little bit of morning sun from over there because the sun kind of goes this way across the sky. But because I am on the edge of the zone where rhubarb will actually do well, I think that giving it that afternoon shade in the summer is absolutely gonna make a difference in how healthy these plants end up being. Good evening, guys. I am finally processing all of this dried holy basil that you might have seen hanging around my house for months now. This was harvested right before the frost, so that would have been like late October-ish or early November. And it has been drying on my spice drying rack ever since. And I probably should have done this sooner, but it's sitting there and it's stable and it's not necessarily one of those things that's a priority, right? But I finally ran out of my stash in the cabinet, and so it became necessary for me to process this. I use holy basil pretty much exclusively as a tea. In the summer, I'll use it fresh, but obviously in the winter, I need to use it dried, and that is why I have all of this dried stuff. It is one of my favorite kinds of tea. It's so, how do I even describe? It's like almost fruity. It goes really well with fruity flavors. And so I like to use it with like my fermented strawberry leaves. I also like to put it with hibiscus. It goes super well with hibiscus. I actually have a video from, I think it's this summer, maybe it's last summer that I made it now, showing how I make my holy basil hibiscus tea in the summer. And that is really, really lovely. I think I'm getting a lot of seeds in here, and I actually don't really care that much. I'm not going to save seeds from this particular plant because I do grow so many different types of basil. The chance that there is some crossbreeding is very high. So seeds will go in the tea. I don't really care. I'm not going to take the time to separate them out. But yeah, kind of looks like a lot of seeds. This is also how I generally process most of my dried herbs. I cut them off the plant, I hang them up somewhere to dry. They usually stay there way too long. And then I crunch them off of the stems like this. Now, some herbs you might be used to getting powdered, like powdered thyme, for example. And generally what I do is I will store herbs like this in like a larger leaf form. Like I'll crunch them off the plant here a little bit, and I'm not being like super careful trying to make sure that I don't crunch up the leaves at all. But I'm also not putting in any effort into crunching it down into a powder either. So occasionally I will take some leaves and crunch them farther down into a powder and then use that fresh. And the reason I do that is because herbs like this, they keep their flavor a little better if you don't crunch them all up right away. Part of the reason that it smells so good in this room right now is because the essential oils that are in the plant that I can smell, they're being released as I'm crunching it. And the more of that is released, the less flavor is actually left in the leaf. And so just one of the best things you can do with herbs and spices in general is grind them as fresh as possible so that as much of that flavor is preserved as possible, because the flavor will just evaporate right out of your herbs if you allow it to. So in other news, something I want to talk to you guys about is on Sunday, this coming Sunday, so this got posted on Wednesday, this coming Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be going live for my quarterly chat in my Discord group. If you haven't heard of my Discord group, it is a relatively small group of people right now. You can join through my Patreon, which is linked below. And essentially what we do all the time is share pictures and kind of chat about what's going on in the garden. And then once a quarter, every 3 months, I get on a live voice call and I actually chat directly to everybody in that group. There is an option to join the voice call and actually just chat with me, or I get a lot of text questions as well that I go ahead and answer. And in general, we just kind of hang out and have a good time. So if you're interested in joining us on Sunday, again, the link will be below, and that is through my Patreon. This is one of those activities that is so good to do with your friends. If I have a lot of stuff to process, one of my friends comes over, we'll sit around and just chat while we work on stuff like this. And I think we would sit around and chat anyway, so something to keep our hands busy that is also useful. It just feels like win-win, almost triple win, because we're hanging out, we're doing something useful, and we're keeping our hands busy so that we're not just like fidgeting with random objects instead. I don't know if you guys have noticed from watching my videos, but I can be a little bit of a fidgeter with my hands. I'll like twirl my hair, or I talk with my hands a lot, just because they need to be moving. So yeah, doing stuff like this while I'm talking actually does help quite a bit. It helps me to kind of focus a little bit. And I also just love the productivity of it. I ended up associating my self-worth with productivity. Some of you might identify with that. And so I feel immensely guilty whenever I'm not being productive. So I love little tasks like this that I can get done while I'm also doing something else, because somehow that just makes me feel better about spending that time not necessarily like working. As y'all can see, I'm being kind of rough with this, and sometimes I'm ending up with little bits of stem mixed in here, and like if I find a big one, I'll pull it out, but because this is going to be used for tea and not as like a culinary spice, the chunkiness doesn't really matter. The stems are not going to add any sort of negative flavor, and they're going to get strained out of the tea before I drink it, so I don't have to worry about the chunkiness of it, which is really nice, because I think if I had to sit here and refine it and pull out every single little stem, I just wouldn't do it. I would probably say I would do it, but I don't think I would actually do it. All right, we've got our leaves all nice and fresh, and now I'm gonna go make some tea. Oh goodness, this smells so good. Let's see if it's drinkable. Still just a little hot. I add some cold water or cold milk to my tea, depending on which one it is. And I try to make it drinkable as soon as possible, because why would I wait for it to cool down? Share in the comments what your favorite tea has been lately. I would love to hear. Yeah, this is what I do every single time I come into this room. I have to peer at my seedlings. Even if I just did it like 5 minutes ago, I have to look at them again just to see if any new ones have sprouted. I am definitely a little worried about my hot peppers. They are really, really slow and make me nervous, but I'm starting to see them sprout just a little bit, so maybe it will be okay. Maybe I'm just an overly anxious mom who wants everything to go super well, and when my little babies are not exactly on time, I get worried. These are the tomatoes from last week. You can see they're already tall enough to be touching my lights. And we see a little bit of emptiness in here. My basil did not germinate super well. You can see these 2 rows were meant to be full of Emily basil, and we have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 plants in here. My chamomile has not come up at all, and I am only just now starting to get little wild Japanese parsley sprouts. Now over here, the eggplant, pretty good germination. I've got something in almost every cell here. Hot peppers, these are the ones making me nervous. You can see I've got like a couple of sprouts in here, and if we look around the side here, you can see there's a couple more guajillos about to come up. But in general, these have been very slow. These are also older seeds, so you know, I wouldn't be shocked if the germination rate is really low. And I'm thinking I might just go ahead and start another tray of these and just put a massive amount of seeds if I have them, because I'm actually really low on a lot of these. Just put as many seeds as I can in the tray and hope to get at least some germination out of it. My ginger that we saw last week, this one had the little green top. It hasn't really proceeded from that point, but again, ginger is slow. And I added all of these are turmeric, so finally got started on that. And then down here, these are all of my sweet peppers. I do actually sit on the floor for long periods of time and just kind of peer at them. They look so healthy. And then this tray I started just a few days ago. You can see Emily basil here. I planted so many seeds. Hopefully we get a few more of those basil plants. Same with the cinnamon basil. I had 0% germination on those up on the first tray. We've also got, I started some kale. I think I'm late on the kale, but might as well try anyway. I've got a couple of kinds of spinach, some calendula. I'm trying cumin again this year. I've had terrible luck getting it to germinate, and if it does germinate, it often damps off. So I don't know, we'll try again. We'll see. We'll keep a closer eye on it, and maybe this year we'll do better. There's also some dill and some cilantro back there that haven't come up yet, but this tray is only like 3 or 4 days old at most. So, you know, we're seeing the kale and the spinach mostly coming up. I think it's getting close to time to pot up my tomatoes already. They are certainly looking like they're outgrowing their little cells. And like I do every year, I'll probably pot those up into like red solo cups or something similar sized. And that will be their designated spot until they go out into the garden in the beginning of April. Probably second week of April is about when tomatoes will go out. And I am so excited for this weekend when I'm gonna get to chat with you all. Remember, 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, that's Eastern time. You can join me in my Discord and we'll just chat. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.